Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters and debunkers. Geologists from Britain's Durham University are challenging the conventional theories about how the continents were formed with the recent discovery of a sunken continent hidden under and surrounding Iceland. The find could revolutionize geology as it casts doubt on long-held scientific ideas on how land is shaped and formed through plate tectonics and continental drift. The discovery and future exploration of the submerged continent might also be a boon to flat Earth research, as it will force mainstream geologists to abandon old ideas and rethink the true shape, dimensions, history and origins of Earth. The geologists claim that more than 500,000 square kilometres of ocean floor surrounding Iceland and possibly reaching as far as Norway and the British Isles is actually continental crust, not oceanic, meaning the entire stretch of North Atlantic Ocean could once have been dry land above sea level at the time. This finding could also be evidence of a great flood or floods in ancient times. It could be part of the reason behind so-called resets over the ages, and it could be proof that we once all lived together on a single continent known as Pangaea that has split up and moved apart to create the continents we know today. Or it could be down to another theory that I'd like to propose at the end of this video. So first I'll go through the story about the new discovery by Durham University, and then we'll see an animation of how today's continents are assumed to form from Pangaea. Then I'd like to share with you the theory of my own that I have as an alternative non-globe believing point of view in relation to the Great Flood or floods, which are still considered myth but generally accepted by historians and geologists that numerous deluges of biblical proportions have probably occurred in the past. So in the Durham story, it says that a team of experts led by Professor Gillian Fowler from our Department of Earth Sciences believes they have identified a remarkable geological secret, a sunken continent hidden under Iceland and the surrounding ocean, which they have dubbed Icelandia. The sunken continent could stretch from Greenland all the way to Europe, covering an area of around 600,000 square kilometres, but when adjoining areas west of Britain are included in the Great Icelandia, the entire area could be as much as 1 million square kilometres in size. This is revolutionizing geology. If proven, it means that the giant supercontinent of Pangaea, which is thought to have broken up over 50 million years ago, has in fact not fully broken up. The new theory challenges long-held scientific ideas around the extent of oceanic and continental crust in the North Atlantic region and how volcanic islands like Iceland formed. The presence of continental rather than oceanic crust could also spark discussions about a new source of minerals and hydrocarbons, both of which are contained in continental crust. Proving the theory. The research team is now working with collaborators from across the globe on work to test their theory. This work could involve electrical conductivity surveys and the collection of zircon crystals in Iceland and elsewhere. Other tests, such as seismic profiling and drilling, would need millions of pounds to fund, but such is the importance of this work that funding may well be forthcoming, which, as I said, is maybe good news for those who want to explore this Earth further, and this is on the outer reaches of Europe, and it could get scientists rethinking their science. So let's have a look at a video of how Pangaea is assumed to once have been a single continent. In this animation I've found, it assumes that Pangaea formed as a single continent as land masses twisted and turned and came together over millions of years before separating again over millions of years to become the land masses we are familiar with today. Assuming that the continents were once all formed together as Pangaea, regardless of how long ago that is assumed to be or how that actually occurred in the first place, the Earth appears to be growing, just like any living organism. Whatever is assumed to be beneath the crust is just that, an assumption. Images of molten iron cores simply aren't science fact. In fact, I think they are just mathematical assumptions of different materials required to calculate the globe Earth's alleged mass in the name of Newtonian ideology and swinging balls of gravitating masses in vacuous space. So perhaps Pangaea and the theories that the Earth began as several continents, then came together as one and then split apart again, means that the Earth is living and breathing like any other living and breathing organism, taking thousands or millions of years to take a breath and then eons to slowly breathe out again in a never-ending cycle of contracting and expanding. On the other hand, maybe Pangaea never existed, and like all assumptions about Earth's formation, is just a theory to fit the Big Bang evolutionary narrative passed off as scientific fact after government-funded geological digs to scratch the surface and write down a few theories backed by peer reviews from high-ups in the same institutions that couldn't or wouldn't dare to think it could be any other way. I personally like the idea of a living, breathing Earth, but based on the evidence here, I'd like to propose another theory, that the continents have always existed as we know them, and they have not moved apart over the ages. Perhaps some of the gaps between continents, such as America and Europe, were not always covered with water as they are today. So in my mind, there would be two possible reasons for that. One, the land between continents was once as high as the land we now live on, and for whatever reason has sunk over the years, rather like sinkholes opening up, allowing water to flood those areas. Numerous cultures have mythology about floods. The biblical story of Noah's flood in Genesis is probably the most widely known, but could be one of the more recent events, in which it is said that rain came down for 40 days and 40 nights, and that after 150 days, Noah's Ark came to rest on the mountain of Ararat. Historians believe that the Sumerian deluge tablet dates back to the 17th century BCE and tells a similar story of a deity, Enki, instructing Ziusudar to build a boat to escape a flood that lasted for 7 days. The Babylonian epic of Gilgamesh is also similar to the Noah story, with a deluge covering much of the earth, as well as another Babylonian account of a massive flood, the Atrahasis epic, which says the flood was due to humans overpopulating the earth after 12,000 years of fertility. China, the Andaman Islands, India, Indonesia, Polynesia, Australia, New Zealand and the Greeks all seem to have historical accounts of floods, as well as natives of the Americas. So another theory I'd like to propose that takes flooding into account is that the land between continents that's now under the ocean has never moved or sunk. Just that each country now above sea level is the highest land on the earth as we know it, and that those lower lands became submerged in a deluge or floods throughout the ages. Maybe we could once traverse and inhabit those low-lying lands before they were flooded, but it could also mean that these lands were countries divided by impassable mountains and valleys, and after the deluge or floods we had to learn how to cross these continents by boat, and that could have been the first time different races from different lands were able to traverse those once impassable mountains to the highlands and begin trading with each other. So ultimately, these new findings of submerged land around Iceland should be a wake-up call to anyone that thinks they have a grasp on world history because of what we've been told in school books and institutions. It shows that humankind and current consensus is far from reliable or accurate. In fact, the official narrative about where we live and how we came to be here is absolutely still up for debate and proper scientific exploration. And only if we question and rethink what we believe we already know can we start to find real answers to our past. and maybe we'll find out where we're going. Thank you very much. Click subscribe and the bell icon if you'd like to receive notifications of new videos from Phuket Word.